for a new way forward.
So now we have a new victim to defeat. Lion Kamala Harris, Lion, L-Y-I-N apostrophe.
Always fails to deliver. Always fails to deliver.
The upcoming U.S. election looks all set to be a cliffhanger. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are vying for the White House. And pollsters are working round the clock to predict what could happen on November 5. In this episode of HT In Depth, we tell you what the latest polls reveal, and whether they can be trusted. Kamala Harris and Donald J. Trump are essentially tied, with neither candidate ahead by even a single point in the New York Times' polling average of 5 critical battleground states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Wisconsin, and North Carolina. As per a Fox News poll, Trump has a nationwide 2-point lead as opposed to Harris, who led by 2 points in its prior poll. Meanwhile, Reuters Ipsos poll shows Harris up between 2 and 4 points over last week's poll. In North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, neither candidate even leads by more than 0.2 of a percentage point. And neither can realistically win the presidency without winning at least one of these states. While every poll prediction varies from the other, one thing seems to be constant: a slight shift towards Trump. However, history is proof that polls can paint a misleading picture. While these figures give us an idea of voter sentiment, they don't always predict the final outcome, especially when it comes to battleground states. Harris has managed to blunt Trump's perceived strength on key issues like the economy and jobs. However, this isn't just about national numbers. The true test comes down to the swing states, the battlegrounds where Harris and Trump seem to be neck and neck. However, Trump has slight leads in 3 crucial battlegrounds: Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. And these are the states that could determine the winner. Using the 2016 and 2020 elections as case studies, let's look deeper into why trusting the polls might be a risky gamble for Harris. Heading into the 2016 election, almost every major poll pointed to a Hillary Clinton victory. Forecasts gave her a 70% to 99% chance of winning. Many pollsters believed the former Secretary of State had a solid grip on key states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. However, the election night revealed a different story. Trump swept through these battleground states and claimed victory with 304 electoral votes. So, how did this happen? Pew Research Center points at several reasons that could have caused the surprise. One theory is the non-response bias. This happens when certain voters, in this case, Trump supporters, didn't respond to polls. These voters, often less educated and more anti-establishment, were largely missed by pollsters. Another theory is the shy Trump voter effect. Many people who supported Trump may have been reluctant to admit their preference in polls. Trump was seen as an unpopular candidate, but the election proved otherwise. State-level polling was also inaccurate. In states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, the polls showed Clinton ahead by 1 to 7 points. But these states were taken by Trump. Fast forward to 2020, and the polling industry was eager to correct the mistakes of 2016. Once again, polls showed Joe Biden leading Donald Trump, and this time they were right. Biden did win, but the victory wasn't as thumping as many predicted. Polls significantly overstated Biden's lead in key states, like Wisconsin, where Biden's margin of victory was much slimmer than expected. A key problem in 2020 was underestimating Trump's voter turnout. Once again, polls missed the mark, and the results led some to question whether polling as a whole is broken. A study by the American Association for Public Opinion Research found that pre-election polls overstated Biden's support by nearly 4 points. So, why do polls continue to struggle to accurately capture Trump's support? Part of it is related to the complexity of measuring voter sentiment in a polarized nation. Another factor is the enthusiasm gap. Trump voters tend to be more enthusiastic and show up at the polls in unexpected numbers. Pollsters also face challenges in balancing response rates, as Trump supporters may still be less likely to participate in surveys due to distrust in the media and polling institutions.
After the last couple of elections, and especially the 2020 election, a lot of people have a lot of questions about the role of polling and what polling can and can't do. The polls were off a bit in 2020 and in a Democratic direction. They showed Joe Biden winning by a larger margin than he ended up actually winning by. A lot of pollsters have been trying to take a deep dive and understand what happened in 2020 and how they can do better this time around in 2022. A challenge that they face is that it's not fully understood exactly what happened in 2020. There aren't easy answers here. Pollsters can make some educated guesses about what is going to best represent an electorate in a given election. But who is actually going to go and vote on election day is something that a pollster cannot tell you ahead of time. That's probably one of the big reasons for polls being a little bit off in recent elections.
So, why do pollsters continue to miss the mark with Trump? Several factors play a role. First, predicting likely voters is a notoriously difficult task. Pollsters rely on models that try to forecast who will show up on election day, and these models often have small errors that can lead to big differences in predictions. Also, voters can change their minds. In the weeks leading up to an election, undecided voters may break toward one candidate. This is often what happens with Trump's voter base. In 2016 and 2020, undecided voters moved toward Trump at the last minute, something pollsters couldn't predict. Then there's the margin of error problem. Most polls have a margin of error of around 3%. This doesn't account for non-statistical errors, like underestimating Republican strength in key states. As we saw in 2016 and 2020, these margins can be enough to change the result in a close election. In battleground states, where the Electoral College makes all the difference, the race is essentially neck and neck. Trump's focus on the economy, jobs, and unemployment has resonated with many voters, particularly in states like Georgia and Arizona. The real question for voters and pollsters alike is, can we trust the data this time around? Polls have a margin of error, typically around 3 points, but the non-statistical errors from previous elections show that there's much more uncertainty at play. As Trump continues to attack the credibility of polls, and as his base remains energized, there's every possibility that he could once again defy the numbers. The polls may say one thing, but history tells us a different story. Donald Trump has consistently outperformed polling predictions, and with Election Day around the corner, anything is possible. If 2016 and 2020 are any indication, the race is far from over.